Is martial law something we should expect here in America? Sadly, I really do think that that's the case. Question becomes, what are you going to do to prepare for that? So today's video, not only are we going to see why martial law is inevitable, but also the steps and protocols that we should put in place to protect our families. Because overreach is real, and the overreaching hand of the government has shown itself pretty extensively over the last few years. Let's jump into a video. Hopefully that will help you gain wisdom in preparing for overreach and maybe martial law. And it's slowly creeping into the United States. It's going to be a good video today, guys, and it starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up, and let us know what you think about this video. It does help us stay on the algorithm. Also, with our subscribers and the ones who comment, you're entered every month into a giveaway. We've given away seed vault, solar banks, we've given away all kinds of things. A 72-hour freeze-dried food kit, so please subscribe, give us a comment, tell us, hey, you're enjoying our content, because that will enter you into the giveaways each and every month. Now let's jump into the video for today. Is martial law inevitable here in America? So let's talk about reasons that we're going to see martial law and how we can prepare for it. Now I have naysayers all the time say, oh, you're just a fear monger. No, I'm not. I'm just saying, hey, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts of what's going on and gain wisdom from it. When we critically think for ourselves instead of being manipulated by maybe the media that we listen to and the people we read or the people we watch, gain wisdom from what someone is saying and also do our research ourselves, and then we will start seeing a lot of this for ourselves. So let's jump into some of the things that you should be looking for that will cause martial law, and then what should we do to maybe protect ourselves. I've read several studies on other countries and seen in their history what has caused them to be in a, I would say, a failed state, or in a state where martial law was enacted, or in a simple situation where the government just overstepped its boundaries with its people. So what you would typically see in history in those areas when you saw martial law be enacted by overreaching governments were increasing partisan divide, extreme ideologies on either side, a widening gap from, I would say, the lords and serfs, but we're going to use terminology we all understand, higher income earners and the impoverished. We saw that definitely with stimulus. Stimulus is a big factor in that widening of the gap, and what we saw especially over the last few years. And when we hear talks of impeachment and corruption, now those are just a few things that makes governments tend to be more overreaching. Now here's another one that I think is going to be really big over the next few years, and it's already showing its ugly head right in our faces and we don't even see it. It's AI. AI is going to do some major surveillance. It's going to be doing some major deep fakes, and we're going to see more problems with AI, which is going to cause more balkanization, more partisanship, and more divide, true polarization. So those are the things that tend to cause martial law. Those are the things that cause government to step in and overreach. Let's think just through the last few years. We've seen this with Department of Homeland Security. We've seen this with our CIA and FBI. Now, we hope that a lot of those people in those organizations are good and they're doing good things for America, and hopefully so. The things that scare me is not the rank and file. It's not the ones that are just the workers in some of those organizations. What scares me is maybe what are the reasonings for some of the surveillance and some of the overreach from the top levels. Are they using those organizations to do bad things? So when we hear polarizations, when we hear AI surveillance, and this three-letter agency is corrupt, or this three-letter agency supports this party, when we start hearing that, then it makes us not trust anybody. So if we don't trust anybody, how do we believe that anyone is looking out for our own interest? The scary thing about this is you've seen the left and the right not trust our government. The numbers right now for the federal government and the trust on either side, And I'm not talking about when the party's in power or when the elections are going on. In actuality, it's always in the minority of support for the president, the Congress, the Supreme Court, and every able body of the United States government. So when we have a populace who does not trust their leadership, they don't trust the elections, they're bought off by special interests, what happens is then you start seeing a society that does not respect authority. So we see issues in cities. We're seeing this now, and the corruption that goes on. We're seeing people like Soros and the funding that he does, where these DAs are not even prosecuting some of the issues that are taking place. This will bring in more martial law, people. Think about it. If we have more civil unrest, which is one of the main reasons that government oversteps a lot of times in an emergency situation, is civil unrest and societal collapse. Well, we're having that in our cities already. We can't even get a law enforcement to do their job, not because they don't want to do their job, but their hands may be tied from the higher ups. We see our politicians that are not allowing any kind of moral compass or values being instilled in our children, and instead of educating our children to have smarts and to give back to society, we're not teaching them that. We're teaching them to be as selfish as possible and not have any moral compass. So what we're doing, we're making a civil unrest. We're making a polarization because no one trusts. We're making the society doubt all information from every perspective, from news media to Twitter files to the government to things like the Durham report that just came out. That was huge. That was a big deal. Talked about some of the issues with big government. Talked about the overreach, talked about elections, but you know what? Nobody talks about it because then one side says we don't trust it or the other side says they do trust it. We have AI technology now with the GPT and OpenAI where they can mimic your voice, mimic your presentation on video, to where do we really know if anything is truth anymore? So when I say you have to critical think and I say you have to have wisdom, you better be deciding what that looks like for you and your family. Now, we've talked about the problems, and those things will bring in martial law. Now, what is martial law, and should we be worried? Well, martial law is mass surveillance. Martial law is confiscation. Martial law is more control, and that's control of maybe your firearms and self-defense tools. It may be your food. We see in our United States, states that are banning weapons, banning firearms. Is that the right call to just ban everything? We had a fatality in Mississippi. It was a car wreck. We're not banning cars. It's always user problems. It's always us. We're the failed state. So then therefore, if we take away and we confiscate all the things that can give us freedom and safety, then we're going to always have to be dependent on martial law and government to take care of us, which is a bad thing. We've seen manipulation with food. We've talked about that. That's what our main channel is on. So martial law is more confiscation, more control. And what they're going to do is when something happens like unrest or a massive scare of fear with some sickness, if those things happen, then they come in and they say, we're here to help. Well, did they cause the issues to then turn around and help? Or is it, natural disaster and they're here to help? Or is it one of those things where we don't really know because we can't trust anybody, and who's here to actually help us? So you get what I'm saying? No one trusts any situation that's going on now. Every crisis or unrest or societal issue is now getting spun in our media or with our government or with whatever other party that's opposition. It's getting spun as this is a problem and this was caused by, XYZ, by this other person. When we get to that point, then trust, again, fails and falters. Then you have a populace who is at each other's throat trying to say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. There's no civility anymore. We've seen all that. So martial law pretty much is slowly creeping in, and government overreach with all these bans, with all these executive orders, all those things are making it more tough for you. You just don't see it yet, maybe. It's a slow incline to the top of the hill and then look back and say, oh my gosh, how did we get here from down there? It's those slow steps that got you there, and those slow steps are going to be more surveillance, more control over you. Now, the point of the video, what are some steps that we should be taking to protect our things? I cannot stress to you enough to learn to support your neighbors, learn to support your community. Buying food, bartering goods in the society with your neighbors. You have to learn community. What community does, it gives us a secure trust element that we don't have on maybe the state or federal levels, or even on the global level. We always talk about how can we trust this person? How can we trust that person? Well, when we start getting involved in our community, if that's with civic clubs, or if that's with a social group, or if that's with our church, then we learn to trust people. Then we figure out, okay, we can trust these people. We can bounce ideas off them. We can gain wisdom from each other. This person is growing gardens, so then I can turn around and buy from this person, and we can buy it maybe with a bartering situation, with a decentralized currency, with cash because we still have it, or maybe they need something that we have. When we start doing that, then that surveillance of knowing what we're purchasing, or knowing how to feed our family, or knowing what we need, our necessities, won't be monitored. Remember, all these free apps, all these credit card swipes, all the Amazon purchases you're making, all that is putting you in the algorithm so they know what you need and the necessities of this populace and what they are buying day in and day out. You're just an algorithm. So if you learn to break that source, we're going to work in a parallel situation where I'm going to buy from my neighbor. I'm going to buy my beef from this local farmer. I'm going to buy these vegetables. I'm going to buy gold from the guy down the street that owns a pawn shop that I can purchase from and trust. I'm going to buy firearms at a local provider. We're going to learn to barter our goods. When we start doing that and building that parallel society, we're going to see a situation where we can't be as surveilled as much. Next, we have to be the gray man. We've talked about this in several other videos. We have to be very inconspicuous. Don't cause the issues. Don't be the one running to town and making crazy thought patterns and telling everybody everything you've done. My goal is to advise you, just like I want to give you wisdom on this channel. However, I'm not going to show you everything I've ever done and then gloat and brag on everything I've done dealing with prepping, survival, and understanding what we're doing day in and day out on our farm. That's just not a smart thing to do. But if I go around and I show you every single thing that I've done, then that is putting me at risk. Same way with you. If you have preps, if you have survival items, if you're set up for unrest or being the gray man, then you need to make sure that the gray man is part of saying, you know what, I just want to blend in. Nobody knows what I have here. Yes, people know I have a farm, but do they know, X? Do they know Y? Do they know Z? Do they know where our caches are? Do they know, do we own another property somewhere else? Can we bug out to this location? Do we have this set up just in case? Do we own a whole another property a state over? Is that where all our preps are? Where are our preps buried? Do we have money or firearms buried somewhere? See, no one should know those things but the confidants of your family or your community that you can trust ultimately. When you start learning to be the gray man, blended in, and not bragging and gloating on what you've done and how you're gonna make it through any situation, when you start talking like that, then people listen and people realize that. Now, again, my goal is to tell you things to help you get to the next level of your prepping, survival, and really homesteading and living sustainable. But at the same time, you have to do those things yourself. My advising is only just helping you gain wisdom. From there, you have to take it and mold it to what is best for you. I've done the same thing. A lot of the things that we have, yes, we have, but I'm not just stockpiling them, putting them right here so everybody can see. I'm not going to tell you everything that I do here. It's a purpose. Being the gray man, understanding not to brag on certain things that you shouldn't be bragging on, and making sure that you can just blend in and that you don't bring attention to yourself through a crucial time like martial law. And lastly, having plans. And all this is dealing with planning, making sure that your community and the people that you trust know where to go to if something were to happen, how to work together without using our cell phones, without using any kind of situation that can make you be surveilled on. Remember, our goal is to trust people like our government. We want to trust our government. America was set up on freedoms and values. But when we start losing our way, then all of a sudden that overreach becomes against its own populace. I think back to Canada when the truckers' protest was going on. No matter what side of the debate you were on, it was wrong for them to hold their accounts, to stop their accounts, to stop food, to stop the maneuvering of money to them. That's not the place of the government to do, especially when there was no real danger to the establishment. It was a protest. But you get what I'm saying. That overreach is what we have to be paying attention to here in America. So is martial law inevitable? I think it's already here. Should we be worried about AI? I think we're almost too late for that as well. The more financial problems we have, the more bank runs we have, the more overreach because of this bad issue that takes place. Another major disaster takes place. All those things cause more and more and more control and less and less and less freedom. Those things bring in martial law. Now, will it be called martial law? Doubtful. When the government starts doing those things, just think, this is not quite right for America, is it? This is not the freedom that I think our forefathers saw. So when we talk term limits, when we talk holding people accountable, when we talk about the freedoms, those things are important. Well, what we do is we have to gain wisdom and start seeking safety for our family first, and making sure we understand what sustainable and survival means for our family, but then start being proactive and start finding people you can trust in your community. Start building that alternative parallel society where you can do more than just depend on being the algorithm for Amazon or for Walmart or for MasterCard or Visa. That's surveillance, and we don't want that. So learn to still use cash, learn to find other ways to barter, learn to find ways that you can use cashes, you can bury, that you can do things to take care of your family. Being the gray man's a good thing in this case. Blending in's a good thing in this case. More than anything, I want to encourage you. It's not too late. It's never too late to start prepping. It's never too late to build a sustainable way of living. But you got to start today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless you.